The mayor is not feeling well today, so he wasn't in the office. He said he would join HPC and city council, but I don't see him on Zoom yet.
Okay, I guess if we're ready, we can call the January 23rd, 24th meeting of the Leadville Historic Preservation Commission to order. Start with the roll call.
Commissioner Whittington,
Here.
Commissioner Spillman,
Here.
Commissioner Lindquist,
Here.
Commissioner Edwards,
Here.
Chair Martinek,
Here,
alternate Bailey, alternate Gallagher.
Here.
okay. Are there any revisions to the agenda? And if not, do I hear a motion for the approval of the agenda?
I move we approve the agenda for the January 24th, 2023. Second of the Historic Preservation.
Okay. All in favor, aye? Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have the minutes for January 10th. Assuming you've had a chance to look at them, does anybody want to either amend or move to approve? Yeah,
I see alternate Bailey is here, I will mark you.
Nancy Bailey has arrived. Okay, back to the minutes.
I move to approve the minutes of the January 10th meeting.
Second,
I'll second that.
all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Anybody opposed? Nope. Okay, housekeeping items.
I did.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry, public comment on items not on the agenda. I don't see anybody here. Okay, somebody online, I guess. Anybody have any comments? No, okay. Housekeeping items.
And I didn't know if you or Joey wanted to update from the, edit people, there really isn't anything to update other than we did go down there and meet with them really cold morning.
Yeah.
But there wasn't anything, there's nothing to update, I mean, we weren't
It's
given,
just a meeting.
it was just a, yeah,
A tour and many steps.
yes.
It's a
I
nice
think I
tour.
didn't see the first time, so I was excited.
Well, I mean, I think I've been on a tour that like 5 times in the last year. I think next time I'll just politely, see you guys at the end. Not that it isn't impressive, it is.
But it was nice to meet face to face and, you just kind of want to put your face in their face at a building
Yeah.
number Leadville. So I was just really happy that the mayor and both of you guys, it was a pretty good turnout there.
Yeah, it was good, and it was their first visit of the day. They had several more to do, so I imagine that was a pretty long day for
I bet it
them.
was, I bet it was.
But good, I'm glad they came.
Yes.
Okay. The CLG,
The CLG grant, application, all I can say is it was submitted and there is a confirmation email in your packet from Lindsay that she did receive it with attachment. So that's all I can really say about that, other than March 1st, is that correct, Scott? I believe is when we'll be notified
Yep.
on the recipient of the grant. And the Golden Borough, the last thing on housekeeping was that was fun. I literally just zoomed into that meeting and found it really kind of cool. These are some professional people on that board, that review board. I mean, they nitpicky little things like your grammar wasn't, it was just amazing. But, and they did like the completeness of the application for the Golden Borough, and they unanimously voted to send it to Washington, to the National Park Service for designation. So that they make the final decision.
was there any time frame for that?
I read I wanna say 60 days.
Oh, really?
Is when we're supposed, something like that. It was in the instructions on how the process works. I think the review board has something like 30 days or something to get their, after that hearing they had, to get their recommendation to Washington at the National Park Service, and they are supposed to make the decision within something like 20-something days after they receive it, so
Pretty quick.
it was really quick. I was quite surprised at it, but I guess everyone else does the hard work before it gets to them with all
Other than grammar, did they have any
the.
criticism
They
of the
weren't
application?
critical of our application at all, it was some of the others that were, and they talked about the period of significance, and I actually had to weigh in, which normally I would never, ever have done, but they saw that I had registered, and so they pulled me into the panel when it was time for them. Otherwise, I was just sitting out there and loving it, because I could listen to everything and nobody knew I was there. But then when it came time for the Golden Borough, they pulled me and Dan and Marcy into this panel list so that they could ask the questions. And one of the questions was over the period of significance, and didn't that come into play, the building, and then they noted in their application, so some of the panelists, two of the panelists asked about, were we going to apply for the federal change for the, and so I kind of had to chime in and just answer those questions and say, yes, we have changed it locally and we're in the process of changing it, federally, there's just a lot more to it. So that was the only thing that really came up was that. And they did compare some Camp Hale stuff, so that's why I was like, okay, let me chime in there, because this is just solidifying our argument here, so. But it worked out really well. And it was kind of really exciting. I know that sounds really stupid, because it was a boring Zoom meeting, but it was so exciting. And to be part of that whole process, because I felt those were professional people. I felt like an idiot. I didn't want to have to speak at all, because and Dan and Marcy, you could tell they were just like deer in the headlights, because it was so professional. It was just by the book, and we were all a little Leadville, that's what we felt like. But it went really well. I don't think it showed that we were intimidated.
Well, the application was pretty
It
thorough.
was very thorough.
I was gonna say, they're both attorneys, so if they were intimidated, that was a good.
It was like, panel was just amazing. I think that's why I was kind of thrilled by it or found it exciting, is these people know exactly what questions to ask there. I mean, and then there was a bridge that they were talking about, and this lady was like, I know all about the bridges, and this just doesn't meet the criteria. And I was like, oh, they are strict. So I was pretty excited when our vote was unanimous, because there were some votes that weren't. And some that they tabled some, because they didn't think they had enough information. So to me, I think it was great.
Good job.
So that was kind of fun.
Good. Good, well, good news too. Things are going well right now. I should knock on wood.
Yes, right. Knock on that wood.
Okay, well, we're finished. We go down to new business and discuss grant opportunities. How do we want to do this?
Well, if I was chairperson, I would ask Steve and Scott too, because they have talked amongst themselves. That's where I got this list of grants. So I think they might be able to enlighten us a little more on which ones might be easier, which ones we might make the deadline, or,
I don't think we should apply for everything.
oh, I agree. I agree.
We'll just be a grant organization.
Yeah.
That's all we'll be doing is processing those grants.
Did you want to say?
Sure, I can start with, the state historical fund, the big one.
Yeah,
Lori put in I think you put in the letter of intent.
I did it, I
Here.
did it.
I actually went ahead and filled out one because it was so simple, but then I haven't heard back
You did submit though?
a thing.
Okay.
Yeah, but I haven't heard back, and it's been like
Oh,
a week, so
okay.
anyway, maybe
I might
I'll follow up,
on that.
or
Yeah, let me follow up on that, because I saw that, I printed it out and wrote my answers in, and was like, let me talk to the agency before I hit submit.
yeah, I went to it and it seemed it was so quick and easy that I was like,
Yeah.
I might as well do this so we can
Okay.
see the full application.
I will follow up.
But then I haven't gotten
Okay,
anything, so. So yeah, we need to follow up and figure out,
okay.
cause seeing the full application will let us get a sense of whether we think we can do it by April. Or not.
That's a
So
lot.
that's where we stand on that one, and if we can't do it by April, we can do it by October,
That's true.
so.
That is true.
And ask for a lot of money, but then hopefully, in the meantime, get some of these other smaller grants that Steve thanks to his experience getting, I think, all of these at different times before. So maybe you have a sense of which ones should be our highest priorities, or which ones might be the best fit.
Well, you wanna apply for grants to get that $8,000 for the CLG match? Or do you wanna go to the city council?
I guess that's our first question. Do we want this for that 8,000, or do we want to go for city council? And then if we're going to city council, do we want to go ahead and try to work on some of these toward an eventual match for the larger SHF grant? Do we have a sense of city council's receptivity / budget for covering some or all of that 8,000?
I mean, we know that the city council has, an extra budget for contingencies and those sorts of things. And I think, the planning department just got its budget for the first time, and that includes, a variety of things, including planning commission, historic preservation, and the commissioner pay and everything. So that budget just kind of got established for the first time. It's under the planning department umbrella. And so I think anytime that there's a budget that's being established for the first time, there's opportunity for refinement in the following year. And so I think we're in that place. So it's not, I don't think it would be inappropriate to ask for additional funds, but certainly that ask is stronger, when you can show that you're matching as many funds as possible. And so even if we haven't received those grants, but we're applying for those grants, that helps.
That's good to know. Okay.
And I would think if we kept the match under the $10,000, it might not be such because the contingency fund does have, money for that kind of stuff, but anything more than that might be a little frightening.
What is the match for the state historic fund?
It's gonna be 25%.
25%.
Yeah, so if we do a grant proposal for the full historic context plus the other 2 priority survey areas, the total amount of that grant will be 120
Mhm.
or so. And so we'll need a match in the neighborhood of like 30,000.
That's a little bit bigger bite.
That's a little bit bigger bite, yeah. And so we could either do that in smaller pieces, like the full historic context does 60, where then the match is only 15. And then in a subsequent year, do the priority survey areas, or we could try to, go ahead and do the full thing and cobble together as much as we can. But
Wasn't the suggestion that we do the $60,000 survey and the other 2 top priority areas at the same time?
yeah, I think that would be ideal. The only issue would be, can we cover that match somehow?
And there are a couple of really good targets for that match.
Okay.
The El Pomar Foundation and Freeport McMoran Foundation. And of the 2, the El Pomar Foundation proposal is somewhat easier.
Here's that.
But and the Freeport McMoran Foundation is kind of complex and takes a lot of thought to figure out how to answer some of their questions. But either one of those could potentially give us, $35,000, $40,000 in match.
Oh, well, yeah, if we could get that in one swoop, then that would be amazing.
Yeah, so Freeport has a letter of interest due in May, so that would be the earliest of these things coming up. Although, well, that's not true, because El Pomar has a rolling application period, so we could actually just go ahead and put in an application anytime.
Yeah,
One thing about El Pomar is, you can only get a grant every 3 years.
right,
So if you get one, then you have to wait a year, and I think you can only apply once a year. So if you whether you succeed or fail, you're out of the running for a year. And I think that's the same with Summit Foundation.
Okay,
Actually, well, Summit Foundation only has one application period per year, so yeah, whether you get it or not, that's it for the year. But Summit, the cap is $10,000 for Lake County, so, you know, if you wanted to, that would be a place to go to try to get the 8,000 if you didn't want to apply to city council.
yeah, it might make sense to do, we could apply for some of the one or two of the smaller ones, whatever we thought would be a good fit. To at least try to cover some or all of that 8,000, and then we can also tell city council we might need this 8,000, but we're trying to get it elsewhere.
Yeah.
And then we can do sort of longer term targets on these bigger ones with the goal of covering the SHF match.
Good ones to go to do that are pretty easy to fill out, and you get a quick turnaround time of Lake County Community Fund and the Leadville Trail 100 Legacy Foundation, and go to Climax directly, not to the Freeport Foundation.
Oh, just to the folks up there.
Yeah.
But the climax one is less, isn't it?
Well, it can go as high as 10,000, but that
Yeah, that's all we
unusual.
need. Yeah, and even if they only gave us a couple thousand, if we just got a couple thousand from 2 or 3 places, then all of a sudden we've got it,
Yeah,
basically.
and they'd like to see, well, a lot of the things they fund are fundraisers for organizations, but we'd have to argue that with Climax, that this is going to have good economic impact on
Mhm.
Lake County.
Well, and they now own a building in the National Historic District, so it benefits them to have the survey done as well. As a direct bottom line thing, because of the bank building.
Mhm.
So I talked to representatives of those 3 local foundations, and they all were willing to fund us. I didn't give any indication of what we'd be applying for. I just asked if we could apply as an organ of the city, and they said yes.
Awesome.
And that was the community fund and the legacy, or that?
Yeah.
Okay.
And Legacy is really interested in the history of the community, and especially its mining history. And so fits in really nicely with the current period of significance.
Yeah.
Yeah, and once again, they're in the same exact boat. They own multiple properties in the National Historic District.
Mhm.
Making a big ask and then having city council or these other organizations that are looking at smaller grants, look at us losing a larger amount because we couldn't come up with matching funds might be a stronger argument than asking for a smaller amount up front.
Mhm.
In other words, trying to cover everything at one time and having to come up with $30,000. When we can explain that if we don't do this, we're potentially passing, or they're potentially passing on $60,000
Yeah.
in value up front, might make for a stronger ask.
Yeah, we could. Yeah, we might be able to just pitch it for all of them as thinking of both our CLG match and our potential SHF match as just like one big project. And any funds that we're able to get are gonna be able to make that all go forward.
Well, and Lindsay has been pushing us very strongly to let us know that the number one thing the HPC could do right now would be those surveys.
Mhm.
That's the one thing we're weakest on.
It'll be interesting in terms of asking about the council support for matching funds for these surveys. And especially these surveys in these areas where we don't currently have, regulations. It'll be interesting after tonight's work session to get a pulse for, what is, now that we're hopefully getting all the council members, to weigh in on this idea of expanding the purview of the commission. it'll be interesting to get that feedback tonight, because that, that is, it's not directly related, but it's somewhat related to, potential
Thanks,
ask
Ben, more
for
invest-
funds for surveys that would then provide guidelines to support regulation in the additional areas.
Any of these granting agencies would want to see buy-in by the city, one way or another. And
And
wouldn't
I
have to be
think
the
if
whole.
we had a bigger grant available to us, if they accepted all three of the surveys, then the city stands to lose more if we don't get it than they do if we do a smaller ask. Does that make sense? They stand to lose rather than just considering a donation to the HBC. That's really kind of where I would want to position it. Does that make sense?
You mean if we don't,
If we got this grant that had this larger matching amount
Mhm.
and we couldn't come up with a matching
Yeah.
amount, the city is losing a substantially larger amount than they would be if we made the smaller ask. It's
yeah, I would like to think that we should feel fairly confident that we're going to be getting, I mean, I'm fairly confident, but I mean, I think we should, not shoot it out in the dark somewhere, but make sure, I wish we could talk to the mayor didn't come today.
well, he's a huge supporter,
Yes.
so he
Yeah.
could make some of that magic happen at least, but yeah, I think asking for all of it, hoping that we get part of it, is a stronger ask than only asking for part of it and then having to go back next year and try it all over again.
Mhm.
Especially since some of these were out for a year or two before we can ask again.
Yeah, and I know for like SHF, before, you have to have the match
In
kind of in
place.
place before you sign the contract.
That's
to
where
get the
Greg would
money.
come in.
Yeah, and so,
And
so
we
it
don't
would be
wanna
nice to sort of go ahead and apply and hopefully get some of these so that we are not sitting around worrying, because I've been a part of an organization that had to turn down one of these. 'cause
Yeah,
it
we don't
didn't
wanna
get the
turn down
match.
something.
Well, and that's really the position that we want to put, that's the position we want to put the city in, given the opportunity is, we have this great opportunity and we have these funds, but we can only have them if we can find a match.
Mhm,
How can we get this done?
Yeah.
That's a better way to put it. That's a stronger
yeah,
request.
yeah,
Yeah.
let's see. So then in terms of moving forward with these, do we want to, let's see, are there any, Lake County Community Fund is already in March, and Leadville Trail is also in March. So those, we would, Alpomar, it looks like is more rolling. Climax is. And
Yeah, climax is anytime.
is anytime,
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
So we could ask tomorrow. I'd say, I'd suggest we apply for the local ones,
mhm,
Climax, Community Fund and Trail Legacy Foundation. They're simple applications, here quickly. And, what my experience has often been, especially if it's the first time an organization's applying, is at best, you get half of what you ask for, if you get anything. So, and the community fund has a lot of organizations asking.
yeah,
So, if we ask for 8,000, we might potentially get 1,000 or 500 or something. But, that's something, and at least it shows effort on our part.
mhm, yeah, and a little buy-in from
Mhm.
community, so,
And every grant you get helps you strengthen your case for the next one you apply for,
mhm,
because it shows that you've got support. And especially, when you get outside the area to Summit or Summit County or El Pomar, which is in Colorado Springs, they want to see a lot of community buy-in.
mhm. Is there an application for the Climax local thing, or is,
Yeah, I think.
is it in here?
Is it in there?
Or is this, is this the Freeport McMoran, or is this?
No.
No.
This is Climax,
It's
the
this,
local
the
one.
site investment application
Oh, okay,
near the end.
okay, Excellent. Oh, yeah, that's not very good. And yeah, hopefully a lot of the things that are already in the CLG application can just kind of cut and paste.
Yeah.
To satisfy a lot of these questions. So should we try to get, I can do that cut and pasting and try to get drafts of these three. What would make sense?
Are these three local ones something we're trying to do for the match? Or is this for part of the survey, or aren't they
I think
all
they're for the
lower?
8,000 or but mostly for
For this,
if
for the
we,
8,000 CLG grant?
Yeah,
can-
although,
They're all gonna wanna see a project that gets done in a fairly short amount of time, so like a year.
Mhm.
So, you know, they don't wanna. Since we haven't even worked on the application for the big historic preservation. Or.
the SH, yeah, but we can say,
That one, yeah, I think that the local ones, we probably ought to look at a project that we know we can finish in a year or so.
right, so
So
just
that would be a CLG.
make it the
Yeah.
CLG survey.
I would think so, that one that we,
Say that our goal is to get it done by, next April 24.
right, for the reports. or something.
Yeah. And that, we've applied for CLG funding, this will supplement, or if we happen not to get the CLG, who knows, we could cobble together 3 of these or something. And sort of pitch it like that. Sure, that sound
I
good?
think that's a good idea. We actually will know though by the 1st of March, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know
Yeah, so before these deadlines,
if we don't get the money,
yeah, we could always.
rethink whether
Yeah.
it's March.
Yeah.
So it sounds like we should start with the smaller ones that would be supported by the CLG grant
Mhm.
to make that $8,000 match, and maybe hold off on the state historical fund for just a bit.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. We can see whether we get the CLG, we can see whether we get these small ones. If we do and everything is looking good, then we can aim for that October SHF one and try to get some of these bigger ones as matching.
Yeah, that would be, because of the timing of Freeport, I think even though they've got the May LOI.
I think
I'm
it's
trying to
August,
remember
it's August 31st when that one.
when you have to submit it, and then you don't hear until the end of the year.
Oh,
So it is a long lag time on that one.
Mhm.
You can ask the mayor, he has sat on the panel that makes the decisions in the past.
But yeah, then if we do the October date for the SHF, then I don't think we would hear from that until like December or something
That's true,
anyway,
yeah.
so. So that could work out well.
Yeah, that could be good, because we'll know what we're doing,
And,
sort of.
yeah, so there are good opportunities out there, but you do have to tailor them to the interests of the groups. For instance, looking at Climax. I think that the argument's going to have to be that it's community and economic development that we're after here.
Mhm.
I don't think any of the other things, I suppose it could be community resiliency, but we have to see what exactly they mean by that.
I can probably find some sort of study of, I'm sure History Colorado has put together some figures on, the economic impact of historic preservation or of local historic districts,
You can get-
or Nancy might
The
know.
tourism a lot of that.
Yeah.
The Main Street the Colorado Main Street program and our program, we have a lot of that information.
Okay.
The other recommendation, and I was emailing a program director down there, because she's been doing this a long time with there's 40 some Main Street programs now in Colorado. But our Main Street program has access to some grant funding, through our program. So, I'd like the partnership, and why that would be important to the Main Street program, because, it's part of the 4-point approach, and part of that is preserving and the economic vitality. So we're gonna come out with some economic impact numbers. We're working with with a consultant right now, but something that is really important, and getting this work done, I think, is really critical to our ability to kind of sustain our heritage, really. So, it's not a lot of money. I'll be honest, our little Main Street grants are pretty minimal. However, if we elevate in our Colorado Main Street program, and it's that there's 3 levels, and if we elevate, we get access to double the funding that we had before. So it's not like $1 million, but it's within this matching realm. It
Yeah.
could be within a few $1,000s. So
And would
anyways.
there be a problem with your group in that this isn't going to include main streets, so to speak, Harrison? I mean, we're looking at other parts of the community.
Well, I'm assuming some of the surveys would be done within the Main Street.
No,
That's the one
that's the
survey's
one that's
already
already
done.
done.
Yeah, well, although this one,
Context.
and this
I
one that
see,
we're
okay.
doing has like half a block on Harrison, maybe a block. From
Oh, that's
like,
true.
it's got like the
Yeah,
barber
that's right. I
shop
didn't
and that
realize.
house,
Sorry,
that
yeah.
block on Harrison.
Yeah,
It's-
that's true.
Just an idea,
Whoever
but
that's
I didn't realize that nuance, so apologies, but
Mm,
just an idea.
Well, something we could check into and see what the criteria is, and it being, I mean, Main Street is the most historic part of Leadville, is, as far as the powers that be. So we'll have to look into that and see what the criteria is. Maybe
Yeah,
we could-
yeah, and certainly for the full historic context, because that'll apply and make it possible for businesses like the Golden Borough to
Right.
apply more easily for National
Tax-
Register
Yeah,
and
and
tax credits. and stuff.
Absolutely, absolutely, and that's a definite economic
Mhm.
boost to.
Yeah.
Scott, it's helpful for making that connection between historic preservation and economic development, that memo that I put together for the council. Has an appendix that, and a lot of the references, for that appendix that summarized how historic preservation was discussed in the comprehensive plan, the city's comprehensive plan. There's a lot of references to our goals, for historic preservation as it relates to economic.
Okay,
There's a 1-pager in there you could use.
awesome. I love it when other people have already done the work.
Right.
Yeah, there have been some studies done in the last few years that really go into a lot of detail about cultural tourism and how much it supports. It actually gets it down to the county level for Colorado. And so you can find a lot of information about how many jobs are supported and how much, what the characteristics of the typical cultural tourist is and things like that.
And that would be from like Colorado Tourism Office.
You could get, just get in touch with the tourism panel here and ask for some
Okay.
guidance. Because they should know that.
Yeah, Sarah Edwards, is the head of that.
There's always awesome presentations at Saving Places every year. Somebody's always doing a presentation for, showing how every dollar you spend in your historic downtown, on a historic building, how it's orders of magnitude, replicated in the local economy versus the Walmart and strip mall out in the county.
Yeah.
Mhm. I know there were figures given to us when we did the Herald building as to how much more money the people are supposed to. I haven't got over to say, hey, you're making any more money.
Right.
How is that coming? But it was, considerable. I don't know. Okay, so do we have a plan? Are you going to do those fair ones? I hate to tell you, you have to do you don't have to do anything you don't want to, but I mean, really good.
I'll certainly help you with these.
Yeah,
I mean, you and I can work on them and review them.
yeah, especially since
Before we
you've already
everybody.
done them successfully for mining museum and, but yeah, I'll take a look at these, maybe send some stuff to Steve and we can get the drafts, if not by next meeting, then by the second one in February. Would that make sense? Then for having it, cause the deadlines then are in March, we'll find out March 1st about the CLG.
That sounds like a plan.
What's our meeting?
I wish I had access to my old grant proposals. I had a lot of verbiage in there that I know the reviewers like, but unfortunately I left all that stuff at the museum.
We'll go over and get it back.
Yeah.
I'm obviously,
I have to sneak in.
don't you have a key?
No, I don't. I gave my key back recently.
Oh, you did?
Well,
Our next-
Never give back the key.
Never know when I need to sneak in.
Our meeting in March is on the 14th, so we would know hopefully the outcome of the CLG grant
Mhm.
by then. We can go from there.
Yeah, so maybe we should try to get drafts of the short ones by the second meeting in February.
Yeah, like Lake County has that March 15th. you said,
Yeah, so
right?
that then we will have them ready to submit. So to possibly alter and submit depending on the outcome of the
Okay,
CLG.
So do that on the second meeting in February.
Yeah, that'll be our goal.
Yeah, I think all of them wanna know who your partners are, so if we can partner with Main Street in some way, that would be great. And other places, if we can think of other interested parties to partner with and get commitments out of in some way.
What kind of commitments?
Well, I mean, even our translator is a partner, even if we're paying her. And so that's a local
We're
connection.
members of the, I always forget that, there's too many C's and A's.
LCCCTF.
Yes, that way. I mean, we pay, dues to them, or partners with them, just like we'd be partners with Main Street and some of the other, so yeah, we can.
And there are a lot of people who sign those letters who, may regret it when we come back.
Right.
Ask for money, but, I mean,
The other advantage too of partnering with Main Street is really that ability to communicate with the business community on Main Street. So we're kind of that voice and really, I love the HBC and Main Street partnership. It just makes all kinds of sense. And just actually a kind of an innovative model compared to our counterparts in other areas of Colorado. So I want to kind of keep, building that up and educating, because I think there's some similarities between HPC and Main Street, and that there's people that maybe don't understand what HPC does and doesn't understand what Main Street does. So
yeah,
maybe if we do it
That's true.
together and we partner, it'll create a stronger message that this is really an economic development tool, very important, tool for us, both HPC and Main Street, so,
that's true. I'm looking forward to starting on this when we actually get people who own houses, to get involved in this and to, get excited about their house and, hopefully get excited.
Yeah.
If I get excited one way or another,
That's
but,
probably true,
but I
but
think,
it's kind of a good, that, you have a historic house, and you can keep it, looking historic and, I would be really excited. I am excited and I just rent. But I'm in a very historic house.
okay, well, so anything more on the grant opportunities, or I think we have sort of a plan going forward. So we'll look forward to,
Okay, and Scott and Steve, just reach out if you need anything from me that I can help in getting it more information or any of the handouts that we have that you might.
yeah, the same here.
And thank you both.
Yes, very much.
It's good information.
Okay. Then all we have left is discuss annual work plan based on preservation and survey plans.
That's one of the recommendations from Lindsay and the CLG program, and I really just need you guys to direct me, kind of let me know how you want me to do this. I mean, I don't, is it a yearly plan? Do we want to have a, like, you guys do goal setting? Is that kind of goal setting for each year? That's something that you're wanting to accomplish? I don't know what kind of format you would like to have this in.
Well, obviously, the grant thing that we just talked about is gonna be
Right.
part of a major part of our work plan.
Right, and I would think that everything that Lindsay has recommended that we do, whether it's period of significance or the things that we are currently working on that aren't gonna be done in 1 year,
Mhm.
to me are kind of our plans, and I guess I just kind of.
And having an annual work plan actually helps you demonstrate your impact to the community a lot easier,
Mhm.
when you have those in place. So, because it's kind of nebulous otherwise, but when you can reference back something that's on an annual, that's how we do it at Main Street.
Mhm.
So do you guys have an annual work plan?
We do.
Could you maybe share your annual work?
We don't
plan?
have that. Every year,
We had last year's.
what will be, I'll walk us through the process when we go through it. Our facilitation is on February 6th. So for our 2022, it's really, and don't let it fool you, it's not an annual work plan, it's an annual-ish work plan. So it's like an 18 to 24-month work plan.
Okay.
So, but it's really just making sure that you're staying true to your mission, right? And that your goals are in line with that. And then at the end of the year, you can go, we reviewed 998 COAs, or,
Right.
that's a lie, but,
Wow.
when you.
Don't do that.
Takes care of everything.
Those are impressive numbers to people, and then that really, it's like, oh, that's what they do, darn, that's a lot, so anyway.
Well, no, there's another thing that we could do, which would fulfill Lindsay's request for the annual work plan, is what if we create it this year, every month as we're going along? Based on what we're currently doing, because so much of what work that we do is seasonal. We know our COAs are typically gonna be between May and September. December and January and February have absolutely been on grants.
Mhm.
And,
Changes in grants.
yeah,
So we need to,
outreach to the historic preservation community, like our visit last time.
Right.
So what if, for January, we could put down, we worked on grant applications. And that's a good time to do that, because it's a relatively dormant time for building and renovations in Ludlow. We know April is historic preservation
Right.
month, so that's our
Basically,
emphasis.
do it by the month.
Do it by the month, and at the end of the year, we can go back and tweak it. But we're building it as we go.
Right, building it as we go, that makes
remains
sense.
a goal.
Yeah.
I will send you our 2022 priorities document, and it is broken out quarterly. And it really helped us kind of visualize where we have gaps in the calendar. I will share that with you. It's not technically an annual work plan, it's a snapshot quarterly of what we're working on. So in the first quarter, we're not working on
Right,
COAs.
right.
Like we used to. It's all in quarters 2, 3, and 4, is most of our work.
Right.
Absolutely, yeah, so
If you would
maybe we
please,
know that
I
as
will
we
do
go, and Lindsay will see that on every meeting notes
Right,
to fulfill our requirement.
and then at the
Makes
end
it
of
easy
the
for us to
year.
build, because then we can go back and say, okay, well, we know December and January are quiet, so what can we do for funding for the year?
Mhm. Yeah,
In March, we were working on April, because that's our outreach.
Yeah.
And then, May, June, July, and August are heavy community involvement, COAs primarily. So
Yeah, it's
maybe
really-
that's an easy way to start.
Yeah.
It's a relatively short document that can be included in the packet for each meeting also. And so it's just a way to kind of a visual reference, every meeting to just kind of check in every meeting to look at that.
Exactly.
and we can't forget our, what we hope the council will be approving of, going ahead with the expanding our purview and also the demolition
Right.
and all that.
Which is Chip and I were just discussing today, will have an impact on us as employees and you as commissioners, because, we were trying to figure out, it's so hard to guesstimate, is this gonna, if we do get everything we're asking for, is that gonna double our COAs, or is it gonna triple them, or is it, in the last 2 years, it's been so different, and we didn't change any code, but year before last, crazy busy. We were having 2 and 3 COAs a meeting. This year wasn't very busy at all, so we were like half as busy this year as we were the year before that, so none of that makes sense. So it's really difficult to plan and figure out if we do get these code changes, how much more busy we'll be. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
there's
and you
some
don't
meetings-
ever know, really.
Right. As Christiana told us a year and a half ago, be careful what you wish for. You know,
Mhm.
are you
Yeah,
guys gonna
I
be able
thought
to
about
handle
that.
this kind of, if it does increase our workload?
You guys might have to hire somebody else.
And in the meantime, we have. so we have-
Exactly, and in the
we actually
meantime,
have
we
a staff.
have, right, and we do, which is really important.
And so much of those COAs, or so many of those potential COAs would be administrative,
And that's what we
administratively
discussed.
handled, they don't have to come in front of us.
Right, right,
The number that come in front of us probably isn't changed that much really. The number that come in front of you guys potentially does,
right.
that helps you do your job.
Exactly, and as we were mentioning, you know, we welcome more COAs, because that means the community's getting more involved, they're realizing they have historic properties, they wanna do it, you know, the right way, they want, so it's a double-edged sword, I guess, good thing and bad thing.
Yeah.
We'll see, we really don't know, I mean, we don't.
When are you gonna share with us your impressions of the meeting that's taking place this evening with the council?
When do you want me to?
I mean,
I think we should have an update at our next meeting.
we don't get to know before, I'm kind of curious.
I could send it a memo, or they could send it
If
a
he
memo.
sends a memo that's not to more than one of us, doesn't that constitute having a meeting? You have to be really careful how you communicate with your commissions.
Well, you can
because
communicate
If
with
we're
us.
all talking together, then that's considered a meeting. You've gotten more than the quorum together.
You can send us an email and
So,
it'll
yes, we
be
can
public,
send you an
it'll be
email.
public
Well,
record.
she could send an email out and just make an announcement, that would be different,
That's true.
just an
That's
update
Just
for
an
the meeting.
update. I mean, if you want him to give a full presentation, I would suggest you wait for the next council, for the next HPC meeting.
Mhm.
You can do it either way, we'll figure out, you know, and Chapin can kind of tell you more. There may not be anything solid that comes from tonight's meeting.
Well, especially if the people don't show up.
We're only assuming more than one person shows up, right?
Today, Laurie, our boss made, Hannah, the deputy city clerk, sent an email to all the council members asking if they're gonna be there, because they wanted a quorum, because they already know 2 people aren't gonna be able to be there. So they wanted to make sure, and I know I saw 2, at least, they were gonna be there, one of them was one that wasn't there before, so that's what we're hoping is. The 2 council members that haven't heard this, that are available, will be here. Because then that will almost have reached all the council members.
Oh, good.
So,
Okay,
so there may not be anything to update you all.
that'd be sad. And how many meetings can we have?
And correct me if I'm wrong, Chief, but I think what our plan is after tonight, we would like to have something that we could take to the Planning and Zoning Commission, who, once the Planning and Zoning Commission sees what we're trying to do and kind of gives their okay, we can start on the ordinance, right? Or does Christiana do the ordinance first? I'm sorry, I don't think.
I think Christiana said that she likes to have things, so the city attorney likes to have things in ordinance format when she's going to the planning and zoning
Okay,
commission. But we would, and that would include the red lines, which she's already prepared. But when we go to city council for a public hearing, we would not necessarily be including the red lines in the packet, it would just be, well, it'd be in ordinance format. It's not that like you had it in your packet previously, it'd be in ordinance format. So this would be kind of like their, not their last opportunity, but, because they can let us know, okay, we'd like to see this again in another work session. And then, that's fine. But in other words, telling them the next time they would see this, it would be in ordinance format, but there's a step in between which, because it's required to go to planning and zoning commission first.
Mhm.
so the next time council would see it, unless they choose to have another work session, would be in ordinance form for first reading. Is how that would play out.
Yeah, so, so the goal, for tonight is to ask them, how would you like for us to proceed?
Mhm.
Do you agree with everything that is being proposed? And so therefore you're ready to take, now that you've seen this twice, you're ready for this to go out of red line format into, and also, or in addition, into an ordinance format and then go to planning and zoning commission. And knowing that then you still have an opportunity for 2 reviews. Or, are there things that you want us to tweak before it goes into ordinance format, you want to give us comments for revisions, we will come back to you with that. So, it could go either way, see, and I think that really just depends on attendance also.
Like if nobody ever comes to these meetings, though, we'll never
Then we're
get
just gonna go ahead
anywhere.
and go forward, and they'll
It's
have
called
to.
killing us by kindness is what that means.
It's like those demolition things where you know, you just don't do anything to the building and it ultimately falls down.
Which is literally demolition.
Okay, well, good. Yeah, we'll do a work plan. And we seem to have gotten to the adjournment part of the meeting. So, does anybody else have anything to say about anything?
Nice application start.
Yeah, this was part of, this was.
Oh, it's part of the packet.
I guess I just would, before we adjourn, going into, so here at 6 o'clock, right now, we're going into the city council work session. I have my notes from the last work session, it was a joint work session. And we had great attendance from the HPC and poor attendance from council work, but that attendance would be better tonight, that remains to be seen. But was there anything that since that time period, is, glaring, like additional comments that that you would like me to make that was not covered in my presentation last time? I've gone back and reviewed my notes, and there's not much, but I just want to make sure that I'm not just, representing staff, but additional comments tonight that are, additional to the memo. If there's nothing, that's fine. I just want to make sure we have that last opportunity before going into this work session.
I thought it was excellent.
Yeah, the demonstration of the why, I think is, really critical. Like, why should they approve this? I think is, was a good point in your presentation, so.
I mean, like the proactive versus reactive kind of stuff.
Yep.
Why.
Yep.
Right.
Well, and now you've got the potential new development going up on 7th. On top of that, so there's about to be a tremendous amount of in-town development.
Right.
Which will carry over into the national overlay.
Right.
So all the more important now than it was a month ago.
Right.
And with the expansion of business community, within the 1 block on each side on Harrison since 2020, I think has been established and can be demonstrated. So I think that's the connectivity as well of why this is so important that that our work is not just, pertaining to the retail core. There's more than the retail core now. Didn't used to be,
Absolutely.
but now there is. So that needs to be
And the
expanded.
city council, that's
Acknowledged.
wanting to spread out from Harrison,
Right.
to create more businesses, so that's absolutely a good point.
I think one of the discussions that we've just having recently today with among staff and including the city administrator is just going in tonight, just really making sure that we're clarifying like what some of this text would mean. Like, so for example, when it says like any modification to any structure would require this review. So for example, clarifying to the council so that means that, okay, if you are proposing to just replace the roofing on your house with the same exact roofing or replacing the same exact siding, and this could be for a non-historic, even non-conforming structure, or just replacing the windows with what's existing, like for like replacement, that's not going to require an substantial permit. So it's essentially by right development, straight to the building permit that's required. But even if it's a non-historic, non-conforming structure, if you are replacing and it's not like for like, you're changing the material, then that would require an insubstantial permit. So if I'm a local resident and, I can, with 2 employees in the house, local employees, and you're barely affording the mortgage and you have to replace your roof and somebody says, oh, you should do metal instead of shingles, that means you gotta come in to us. And but clarifying with that permit would be, we have the capacity for that permit would be administrative and would be a relatively low cost permit. But that means that there's a permit required that's not required now. And so just wanting the council to be, aware of that, and the city administrator made a good point that, you know, for example, if, we have this work session tonight, we discuss that, and the newspaper comes out tomorrow, and the city's proposing to require a permit for any kind of, you know, these kind of projects. You know, when we're looking at locals and affordability and those sorts of things, you know, that is a little bit of a factor, but it also, you know, it's important so that we have an opportunity to review that. So if we're talking about, because we don't know how the market will work, but if, you know, the substantial amount of these reviews that we're getting are developers who are coming in or investors who are coming in, and these are not really locals, these are just second homes that aren't even being short-term rented, they're just investment properties, and people are wanting to dump money into these. That, you know, those are two very different things, and but that review allows us in that latter scenario to make sure that these, you know, this is not a substantial change in character to our district. So I think I didn't go into that last time as much, but I wanted to clarify that. You know, so that we don't get too far down the road with this, and somebody's like, wait, what, it's gonna require a permit if I want to do a re-roof on a non-historic house?
Yeah, that's a very good observation.
Yeah, I think that's a good point that need to spell out exactly what these changes will entail so that city council doesn't have that reaction at any point down the line of like, what? Or anyone in town have that reaction.
Right.
Well, and once again, remember, all we're asking for is the opportunity to review, to make a recommendation.
Right.
We're not actually making decisions for anybody. But the alternative to that is no review and no decisions, so that's what we run into.
Yes, and that
Is
creates,
it carte blanche for everybody, or do we actually put in place something that might protect the state on down the line?
So what happens if you have another meeting tonight, like the last one where, I mean, nobody's really here, including us, since we aren't coming, so it'd be really empty. And is there any way you go ahead and just put the ordinance, you know, move ahead with the
I
ordinance
think if
without?
they don't make any kind of decision tonight or don't want another work session, I think it's time to draw up the ordinance, take it to planning and zoning and see what they think and just present it
Cause I think
to
that's
city council.
the way to go.
We can't, the demolition by neglect, you can't just stick your head in the sand and expect it to go away. We have got to make
Yeah,
some decisions one way or another. Either they're not gonna allow any of it, and they need to just shut us down, or whatever it is they wanna
okay, well,
do.
that's what I
Or
would.
they've got to go ahead and see what we've written and how we've written it. So that's my thoughts, and I'm assuming Chapin feels the same way. It really just depends on how council comes to the end of their meeting tonight, I guess. Is, you know, if they don't want to make any kind of decisions or they wanna put it off, I'm not comfortable with that as a staff person. I think we need to go ahead and go to planning and zoning with the ordinance.
Well, I agree, so.
Agreed, yeah, and that's just a little bit more pressure on council.
It is, but, you
That's a good
know,
thing.
they said no go away a year and a half ago, and we did. We came back a little more organized and ready, and now thank God we have Chapin on board, because we'd be shut down again.
Well, at
If
this
it
point,
wasn't for him.
and at this point, everything is drawn up, we're
Right.
ready for ordinances, the red lines
Exactly.
are already done, we're fully prepared.
Fully
There's really no reason not to.
And we
Make
brought
it
in
last.
counsel, we brought in, you know, the city attorney who's drawn that up and did the red line, so. I just don't think that we should let up unless council
No.
specifically tells us.
I definitely agree with that.
So specific to your question, unless we got cold shut down, then yes, we move forward.
Right.
Mhm.
And in terms of I was trying to find the code section, but there's authority that's given to staff, and the planning and zoning commission to propose code amendments. And I think that actually, the HPC is actually excluded from that. I think that's why like the HPC revisions are supposed to go under planning and zoning commission. But I mean, generally speaking, I think the HPC has the support of the planning and zoning commission. And I have been keeping the P&Z updated about things that have been going on in recent meetings at the HPC. So technically, I think we still have the authority to proceed with those amendments. Obviously, the whole purpose of the work session is making sure we have the graces of council. Yeah.
I'm sorry, Nancy.
I had a question, and forgive me if I'm not remembering, your entire presentation, but I think it would be nice to demonstrate, an example of, you know, like a project that could have really gone bad, you know, had it not come in for review, or something, you know, to kind of demonstrate, to kind of remind them of, you know, why this is so important. It's just an idea.
His examples are of bad things, not good, that could have gone bad, like, he has an example in the packet of the square garage ADU that's behind, that towers over the top of
Oh,
the house.
right, oh, that's
And
right,
another
that's right,
example
you
is
did.
Breckenridge,
Good,
how they
good. I
lost,
remember now.
you know, designations due to
Perfect.
ADUs, so
Sorry, yeah.
kind of like what you're saying, but not
Yeah,
quite.
could we talk about is it the house where you live now, Lori? The one you're renting? Is that the one where they came in? And,
Yes, 139, they
Yeah.
came in.
yeah, so that could be one example. If they
That's
came
true.
in with a design that we considered not historic. We were able to talk to them.
Right.
They were happy to modify it
Right,
And
in
one
ways
thing-
that didn't alter like what they ultimately wanted to do
Right.
with the property, but they just made it fit in better and not be like a weird modernist shape.
That is true, right,
in
right.
Leadville.
And I also gave him, the examples of two that I can think off the top of my head, that technically shouldn't have, they didn't have to come before us, and that's Stephen Max down here with the spiral staircase and the deck on the back and the roof, remember he had like 7 roof lines, and he was trying to, we didn't have jurisdiction over that, we really didn't have jurisdiction over the house I'm living in.
Yeah, that's true.
They came to us, both of them, and were pretty adamant about wanting to go through the process, which I was telling him, we absolutely loved, because we actually got to help dictate where the design went, and they,
Not dictate, but.
okay, suggest.
We didn't change their use, we were able to make it more in fitting with the National Historic.
Or we could talk about with the container house.
We could- we don't have to talk about the kids. I'm a bigger permit expires.
Well, if you have the opportunity to, you know, to go back and within the next hour. Look at I guess it'd be great to put on the screen, you know, an example of what they originally proposed side by side with, an example of what was originally approved. I think that visual will be important, otherwise it might just.
Yeah, they
Well,
wouldn't.
and we can certainly talk about some of those if they want to.
Yeah.
It's not a problem, and there are a few that are pretty prominent that everybody would be familiar with.
Yeah.
Enough.
The other thought that I had was just, you know, just say, okay, look, and after I explain kind of these bad, you know, bad examples, that are in the memo, just kind of going through an exercise of, okay, let's everyone just think of your favorite residential historic street in Leadville within the historic district, where you have a row of kind of your favorite homes, and everybody's gonna kind of have a different, you know, appreciation, a different example. And then, you know, pulling up, the street that Zero Day Cafe is on, is it 7th Street? And say, okay, so all these homes are outside of the retail core. And I'll just say, this is my favorite example, but you may have some others, but now just imagine if, the facade in all 5 of these historic homes were, you know, you had a developer or investor came in and bought up a few of these homes, and they wanted to change the facades, and they wanted to put in, you know, floor to ceiling glass windows, for example. Maybe there's a better example, but, and modify those facades. Right now, that is, it's not subject to the residential infill design standards, because it's not new construction of a new residence on a vacant property. And it's not within the retail core, and so technically those exterior modifications would not be subject to our guidelines. So imagine if that's your favorite street, and that's a street that you live on, and you know, you can think of a worst case example, but if an investor were to come in and propose something radical there, and they had the right to do that, and the city didn't have anything in the code or in the design guidelines to stop them, that could happen. Now then imagine if that was repeated, so that can change the characters, so that's our concern.
Yeah, that's great. I think that would be effective.
That would work even if I don't find.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I feel really nervous.
Okay, well, good luck tonight at the meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we're finished.
That's what we're gonna hope. Good vibes from all of you that it's gonna go great.
Will the mayor be there at all, or he's
He
Sick
did,
right now, so.
he's sick and he did say if he was feeling better, he would join via Zoom, but he's not feeling too well.
I imagine he might be saving up his energy for the.
That's what I'm hoping. I'm hoping him not being here means he will be there for city council. It's more important that he be there for city council.
Yeah, he must not feel
I know.
Almost as sick.
Okay, well, once again, does anybody wanna move to adjourn?